Hey everybody, it's another React video here. I want to say thanks for tuning in, and before we get right into the video, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps with getting my message out that I'm trying to raise awareness about essential tremor. So hit the subscribe button and let's get into it. This is a video from the International Essential Tremor Foundation, so the IETF, and they're doing a pretty decent length of video here on essential tremors non-motor symptoms. So, most of the time, especially with the word tremor in the name, people think, okay, it's shaking of the hands and arms, but there's actually a lot more to it. And so I'm going to break this video down and do it in parts so that way it's not, an hour long React video. And the first thing we're going to talk about is just kind of some basic facts about ET, and then what are the criteria and what are some of the non-motor symptoms that we're going to start discussing. So let's get into it.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. It's morning where I am, which is in Seattle, Washington. Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, IETF, for inviting me to talk about essential tremors non-motor symptoms. Some basic facts about essential tremor. The prevalence is about 1.3% of the population, but essential tremors prevalence increases by at least 74% for every decade increase in age. And the incidence also increases with each decade. Interestingly, there is a bimodal peak, meaning people in the second decade and the sixth decades of their life are somehow more impacted by essential tremor. And then the highest prevalence is in people over 80 years of age.
So this is really interesting here, and I'm going to pause really quickly. So I was diagnosed with essential tremor when I was about 20 years old. I showed signs of essential tremor in my teens, but the diagnosis didn't come until my 20s. So that's really interesting fact there.
Men and women are equally affected, and there is a significant cost to society in treatment and rehabilitation of essential tremor. Hence, we need very good therapies and perhaps a cure for this condition in order to reduce the burden on the patient and the society.
So it is pretty expensive. There are some assistive devices and assistive things that you can buy, but they're really pricey. And then all of the testing that you go through in order to be diagnosed with essential tremor, and all of the neurology visits that come after, the potential surgeries that come with having essential tremor, it's an incredibly pricey movement disorder to have for not only the person, but just for the medical industry itself. I'm not surprised by that figure.
Essential tremor is artificially classified into two categories.
So this is new. They've just started releasing some data around ET plus, and that's the type that we're going to be talking about throughout the rest of these React videos.
I believe that this was for simplicity at one point, but truly there is a significant overlap. And in our clinic, we see essential tremor with a lot of other neurological signs, which seems to be the predominant presentation of essential tremor. In terms of the core criteria, the diagnosis of essential tremor is still dependent on identifying progressive tremors in arms. There may be tremors in the head, voice, people may have leg tremors, and these tremors need to be progressive over at least 3 years of duration to ensure that they have the appearance of essential tremor and not.
So that's an important distinction to make here. So when you're going in for your potential diagnosis, they do want you to show a prevalence of at least 3 years or more of tremor, because there can be other things just in life in general that can cause tremor, and your diagnosis may not be essential tremor. So you have to show a period of time with tremors as one of the categories to be diagnosed.
Any other tremor, and the disease, the tremor is not a presentation of another neurodegenerative disease, and more often than not, essential tremor is present on both sides of the body, but it can be highly asymmetric. So we will be focusing today on ET plus because we are going to be talking about non-motor symptoms of essential tremor or symptoms beyond tremor. There have been multiple studies done. Most of them are fairly small, but when you put all these studies together and you do a retrospective review of all these studies, it seems there are some commonalities and there's some common non-motor areas that are affected. They include the neuropsychiatric the area of the brain, or rather the neuropsychiatric domain, cognitive domain, which is part of neuropsychiatric, but I've separated the two for ease of remembering, and then sleep and sensory areas are affected, and then there are comorbidities, which are other conditions that are prevalent to a higher degree in essential tremor than in normal controls, and we'll see what those are. In terms of the neuropsychiatric domain or neuropsychiatric symptoms of essential tremor, the two most common are mood disorders such as depression and anxiety. A fairly high percent of people with essential tremor suffer depression, up to 60%.
I think it's interesting here to stop and talk about these. It is common for people with essential tremor to suffer depression and anxiety simply because they have the movement disorder. They have been diagnosed with it. It can be incredibly isolating. People can find it embarrassing. They no longer want to go out in public because their tremors can get so bad. It's hard to go out and eat or do your shopping because you feel self-conscious. People are staring. They wonder if something's wrong with you. They think you're drunk. There are all kinds of reasons that you get judged as a person with essential tremor, and that can lead to feeling depressed, feeling anxious if you actually have to go out. But this also includes diagnosis of depression and anxiety outside of simply having the movement disorder and the issues that come along with it.
And up to 22% may have severe depression. Depression can take many forms, but in essential tremor, it manifests as lack of interest, feelings of guilt, difficulty with concentration, and loss of energy. Interestingly, depression, and we'll see some other symptoms, is more common in people with a midline tremor, meaning tremor of the head, the voice, and the jaw. There is some correlation with tremor severity, meaning the more severe the tremor, the worse are neuropsychiatric symptoms, but truly the literature is mixed on this, and we don't have definitive data to support it. It would be commonsensical to think that that would be true, but we need more information.
So that's interesting there, and I'm just going to put a little tidbit in that I also have a very slight jaw tremor, so that's considered a midline tremor, and I have been diagnosed with both of these. So as I was watching through this video, it was actually really interesting to put myself as one of the subjects in this and see how much actually correlated back to me.
In terms of anxiety, it is specifically social anxiety that is seen more commonly in people with essential tremor, and it is associated with females more than males, an older age of onset and prevalence, and interestingly, head tremor.
So another thing to note here is that, the doctor mentioned at the beginning of this, there have been studies, but they're small. And I think there is some social stigma around men going to a doctor seeking help for any type of depression or anxiety. I think there are probably more men out there that actually have these neuropsychiatric conditions, but society kind of makes them feel like they just need to swallow it and buck up and deal, where women are more likely maybe to actually seek out help for any kind of symptoms they're starting to feel. And women also get overdiagnosed with depression and anxiety when it actually stems from another issue. Menopause can also be a factor of this, and there's so little research around it as well that a lot of times doctors just say, oh, you're depressed or you're anxious, and we'll put you on some medications. So I would like to see those two areas included or taken into account for any type of future studies that might be done.
With head tremor seem to display more social anxiety than people without. There's
All right, so I said I was going to kind of break these up into chunks to that way the video wasn't going to get really long. So look for part 2 coming out really soon. Thanks for watching.
Like, follow, subscribe, and above all, please share to spread the word about essential tremor.